me get my screen up. Yes, as Steve has mentioned in the past, we've gone on some pretty lengthy trips involving thousands of miles or many thousands of miles. But this evening, we're going to stay much closer to home. We're going to be exploring the Great Lakes. And so the distances involved are only tens of miles or at most a few hundreds of miles. So this is a photo that shows you the extent of the Great Lakes, all inside the red rectangle. And as you can see, this is a pretty significant fraction of the United States. They extend roughly 800 miles east-west and about 500 miles north-south. Here's a picture from space. There are 5 of the Great Lakes. 4 of them are shared between the United States and Canada. The biggest is Lake Superior. There's Lake Michigan, which is entirely within the US. And then we have Lake Huron, which includes Georgian Bay, the North Channel, one of our favorite areas for sailing in. And here's Manitoulin Island, which is the largest island in the world in fresh water. And then coming down this way, we have Lake St. Clair, where our marina is located, and Detroit's right here at the southern end of the lake. Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. And there is a river, the Niagara River, which flows from Lake Erie into Lake Ontario. Niagara Falls is in this vicinity here. So this is a map of the same area, and indicated here are the locations of some shipwrecks, all of which happen in a single storm. So we should take this as a warning that when sailing on the Great Lakes, one should be very careful to keep tracking the weather and be aware of what's coming. So we have sailed in all 5 of the Great Lakes, although for Lake Superior, we've only been up in this region right here, Whitefish Bay. So we've sailed in Lake Michigan all the way to Chicago. We've done extensive sailing in Lake Huron, the North Channel, and Georgian Bay. We go down to some islands here in Lake Erie. And on one occasion, we took my previous sailboat to Lake Champlain, in which we sailed the length of Lake Erie. We bypassed Niagara Falls. There's a canal, the Welland Canal, right here, which we took instead. Across Lake Ontario, down the St. Lawrence River. And looking a little bit further, we sailed past Montreal, probably tens of miles. Got on the Richelieu River, which took us upstream to Lake Champlain, which is located here on the border between New York and Vermont. This illustrates the fact that these lakes are at different elevations. Lake Superior being the highest, Lake Ontario the lowest. And anytime there is a significant difference in the elevations, one has to go through a lock or a series of locks to transition from one lake to the other. So on our way to Lake Champlain, we went through the Welland Canal, which bypassed Niagara Falls. It had 8 locks, and then there were 3 additional dams and locks on the St. Lawrence River, which we went through before we turned off and went up the Richelieu River. So this is the times when we are boating on our sailboat. These are some of the distances involved from our marina in Lake St. Clair. Typically distances of tens of miles or a few hundreds of miles. We're going to be going to Tobermory in Canada at the end of the Bruce Peninsula this evening, a little over 200 miles. We're going to Parry Sound in Georgia, across Georgian Bay, 290 miles. Sailboats don't go very fast. They are limited in the speed that they can travel. And our boat has a maximum speed of about 7 or 8 miles per hour. If we go on an extended sail night and day, the average speed is more like 4 miles per hour under sail power only, which means we can travel about 100 miles per day. So these are multi-day trips to go to these various places. And of course, for the round trip, one has to double all of these mileages. So we're going to start our tour here. This is Willow Run Airport in Ypsilanti, a few miles to the west of Detroit Metro Airport. The reason we're starting here is located at this airport is the Yankee Air Museum, of which I'm a member. They have a number of planes on display, including a B-52 Bomber. They also have a number of planes which are airworthy. And for members like myself, from time to time, we can go flying in these planes. And this is a plane we're going to go on a trip right now. This is the Yankee Lady. This is a Boeing B-17 Bomber. This is a 4-engine heavy bomber. This particular type of plane dropped 43% of all the bombs that were dropped on Nazi Germany during the Second World War. So the bombardier sits up here with a view, and then he is a person who drops the bombs, trying to land them on the target selected. This plane is also known as the Flying Fortress because it is well armored with lots of guns, machine guns. So there's a machine gun here in the tail of the plane, machine gun above the plane, machine gun in the front, machine guns in the front, here are two, another one up here. Machine guns under the plane, machine guns on both sides of the plane. So this is a view of one of those that's seen from the inside. So we're going to go for a flight now, and so they're loading fuel into the plane. This time we don't need any bombs or bullets, just aviation fuel. And we're in the air. So looking down, we're going to, first of all, fly down near Lake Erie. So here you see the lake, and this is the Detroit River coming down from the left into the lake. Another view of the lake and the Detroit River. And you can see just a little bit of the Presque Isle Airport. Just a little bit of the runways right down here. This is a view from the bombardier's location. See a little bit more of the Presque Isle Airport down here. So we're going to turn and fly upstream, flying north. And here we see the bridge that takes you from the mainland over to Presque Isle. And flying north, we can look out to the east to see Canada across the river. And here is our pilot, having the plane under good control. And then we pass over downtown Detroit. See some of the familiar tall buildings down here. And looking back, we can see the Renaissance Center. Now up over Belle Isle. This is the bridge to Belle Isle. And looking back, again, here is the Renaissance Center. And we turn the plane around, come back over the Renaissance Center for another view. And heading north again, back over Belle Isle. This is the Detroit Yacht Club, which you see here. And for a few years, we kept our sailboat. We were members of the club, and we kept our sailboat sort of in this vicinity right here. So we're flying here up into Lake St. Clair. So we got some clear water here and some muddy water right in here. Let's see, we have the range lights. There's a lower range light and the upper range light. These are lined up with the entrance to the Detroit River for ships coming down through the lake. So again, the lower and the upper range lights. Another view of Lake St. Clair. Now, while we were out flying, we were out for about an hour. We caught the attention of a couple TV news helicopters, which saw us and started following us around for quite some time. This is one of them. On the way back, we do a low pass over Detroit City Airport. See the shadow of the plane down here. And then up again. And then back home to the base for this particular airplane. Now there's another airport, much smaller, Oakland-Troy Airport, which is located pretty close to where I live in Ferndale. It has a runway about 3,500 feet in length. It has a number of hangars here for planes. And the Warren Flying Club has a fleet of 3 airplanes in these 2 hangars. And I am a certified private pilot, and I've been a member of the Warren Flying Club for quite a few years. So I've flown these planes in and out of this airport. We have Cessnas. So this is a Cessna 172. Goes by the name November 9359er Hotel, or the shorthand is sometimes just 59er Hotel. Another Cessna 172, 219er, and a somewhat bigger plane, a Cessna 182 with the autopilot. This is a 6 Bravo Lima. And this is a look inside of all the instruments, which are accessible to the pilot. And for a few years, I was co-owner of this airplane. One of the members of the Warren Flying Club and I, Dave Riffle, chiropractor, we have 50-50 ownerships of this plane, Cessna 182 with autopilot. And we're going to go on one other plane before the end of our tour. This belongs to Heike, another member of the Flying Club. This is a Cirrus Sr-22. This is a fast plane. This is her private plane. 3 Sierra Delta. This plane can cruise over 200 miles an hour, has a range of about 1,200 miles or so. And for boating in the Great Lakes, our sailboat is here in Jefferson Beach Marina, or more recently, Safe Harbor, Jefferson Beach Marina. And we're right here. We're at the end of B Dock. Here's a little better view of our boat. And so we'll be looking at parts of the Great Lake from the deck of this boat. So this is a sloop. It has 1 mast. It has a mainsail attached to a boom and the mast, furled here. It also has a jib, furled, but there is a third sail called the staysail or staysail. This is called a cutter-rigged sloop with the third sail. Staysail has its own boom and runs up this line right here. This boat is 31 feet in length. It's a Cape Dory 31, and it's about 12,000 pounds. When we have high winds, one advantage to having the staysail is we can completely furl the jib, not use it at all, use only the smaller staysail, and if necessary, we can pull the mainsail part way down and use just a fraction of that. And here's a couple crew members. Now, as the years go by and I get older and older, my crew looks younger and younger to me. But here are two of them. And here she is decked out in nautical attire. So to start with, we're going to start in Lake St. Clair. We're going up the St. Clair River into Lake Huron. We're going to go up along the Canadian shore to the northern end of the Bruce Peninsula, right here to Tobermory. Then we're going to go east. There's a little bay in here where we're going to stay overnight. And then we're going to sail about 60 miles across Georgian Bay over to Perry Sound. This is the bay, Perry Sound, and then there's the city of Perry Sound on the edge of it. So we're now going up the St. Clair River. There's a fair amount of traffic, and one sees a fair amount of lake freighter traffic going up and down the river. So this is a lake freighter coming downstream. So this is the Algoma Spirit as it passes us. And this is looking at our GPS display on the boat. So this is the river. This is our boat here heading upstream, heading north. And this is the freighter, which is has just passed us. And we see lots of different kind of boats out on the river. Here's another sailboat. This one has two masts, and at the moment they're flying forward sails. This is my boat partner, Scott. He and I own this sailboat. Name is Genesis. We own it together. So going up along the Canadian shore, we see the Canadian flag. You see the wind is blowing out of the north. That's the direction we're going. So under those circumstances, and fighting a 2-knot current, we usually don't try sailing. We use the auxiliary diesel engine, which is on board. So sails are down and we're motoring up the river. And eventually we get into Lake Huron. Looks rather like the ocean. Out in the middle, you can't see land at all. It's just water in all directions. Looking up to the top of the masthead, about 50 feet above the water. Also have a radar reflector, so that boats with radar can see us even in the dark or in the fog. And we're going to take a stop and rest a little bit on the way up. Here we are at a marina. Then back out on the water again, heading north. And after 2, 3, 4 days of sailing, depending how often we stop, we get up to the end of the Bruce Peninsula and the Tobermory area. So here we are, Tobermory Harbor. This is in Canadian waters. And here's our boat tied up at a dock. Just on the other side of the dock to the left, there's a bank about 10 feet high. So looking down from the bank, this is another view of our sailboat. Tobermory, very touristy area. Lots of things to see and do, lots of boats coming and going. So this is a glass bottom boat. They're going out to look at some shipwrecks on the bottom of the lake. And a number of interesting stores. Here's Verna's. You can get outdoor wear, camping supplies. Here, Mariner Chart Shop. You can get charts for the area. So you don't get lost. Glass bottom boat. This one goes to Flower Pot Island. And flowers. Essentially, all the marinas we go to seem to have lots of flowers, which is quite nice, actually. Okay, now we're sailing east along the northern end of the Bruce Peninsula, and it's rather different than around Detroit. We have hills, we have cliffs. This cliff here is probably a couple 100 feet high or so. Now we're coming to the northeastern corner of the peninsula. This area right in here, there is a bay, a sheltered bay where one can anchor. So we're going to go in there and stay overnight. Okay, we're now in that bay, looking at the hill behind us. There is one cabin on the bay, and so here's that cabin. Here's a cardboard box that we carry along, and has a nice flat surface that one can ride on. So Scott and I are both physicists, and so in our spare time when we're not doing other things, we can do calculations. And it looks like we've calculated 3 different things here. So we've got a diesel motor, which doesn't have spark plugs. It uses the compression of the fuel air mixture to generate sufficiently high temperatures to ignite the fuel. So the compression ratio is 21. And we're doing an adiabatic compression, and we show that by compressing the fuel air mixture by a factor of 21, temperature rises to over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, sufficiently hot to ignite the fuel. So another calculation we did, here's the sun. Here's a looking eyeball back on Earth. And by looking at the angle subtended by the sun, call this angle theta, that's ½ a degree. And knowing the intensity of sunlight here on Earth, how many watts per square meter coming down, 1,300 watts per square meter, one can calculate the surface temperature of the sun, 5,620 degrees Celsius, 10,100 degrees Fahrenheit. And then one final calculation. We were interested in how far away is the horizon. So here's the Earth, we're at distance h above the water. We're looking out to the horizon at distance x. So it's a little simple geometry. We can calculate that the distance to the horizon in miles is 1.23 miles times the square root of your height above the water level in feet. So on our deck, if you're standing there, your eye is about 9 feet above the water. That puts your horizon about 3.7 miles away. So we're now heading across Georgian Bay. It's 60 miles. We want to get across and into the marina before dark. So we've started well before the sun has come up. We started in the dark, and now a couple hours later or so, the sun is rising. And here it comes over the eastern horizon. And a little higher. And after several hours of sailing, we get to the other side. So now we're going to be entering Parry Sound. And in we go. Very, very different scenery than we have around Detroit. Very rocky here. Quite spectacular. Yeah, I really like this kind of terrain. Here's a small sailboat, a little smaller than ours. And here's a nautical marker, which we're going to sail past. A couple sailboats off in the distance. And as we go by, we see, well, there's a couple people here who have been swimming. And I would guess that water is quite cold. And then we sail past the marker and continue on. So this shows Parry Sound, this enclosed bay here. And this is the town of Parry Sound here, where we're headed. This has a population of about 6,500 people or so. And here we are in the marina. Looks like it's been raining, it's a little damp. We have a tarp here over one of the hatch covers, so we can open it but keep dry inside. And again, here's my partner on the boat. Looking very happy to be here. And here we are at Big Sound Marina. So Big Sound Marina is operated by the Parry Sound Chamber of Commerce. And being a marina, we have more flowers. Again, Scott and our boat. A few more flowers. And here's another sailor. This is a friend of ours, Jim Johnson, who has joined us from Vermont. My previous sailboat, we sailed to him. He bought the boat from us for, I think, $2. And so we sailed up into Lake Champlain and to Vermont for him to use there. But he's joined us on this trip. So the next day, we're out sailing around the Sound, looking at the scenery. Here's a long, narrow channel we're going to sail down. Not today, but tomorrow. So instead, we sail around a bit, and then we find a rather sheltered area. So we're going to anchor here for the night. So here we are at anchor. And as the sun sets, we get to admire the sunset. One of the nice features of sailing is watching sunsets, because often they can be quite spectacular from the water. And out sailing again the next day. And now we're going to go down that long channel. Sailing down the channel. And as we get to the end of the channel, we have a powerboat that's coming up from the other direction. Oh, and what's this? So here's a place that sells coffee and ice cream. So I don't care so much for coffee, but ice cream I like quite a bit. And so Joe Biden and I have this in common. We both love ice cream. But being a pilot, this also catches my eye. Georgian Bay Airways Air Tours. So that would be kind of nice to go flying over this area. So we look at their planes. So here's one of them. These are seaplanes on pontoons. And here's another one down here. So we get tickets to go up flying. And so this person is fueling the plane for us, sitting up here on the wing. The fuel tanks are in the wings of the plane. The plane is fueled. Here's our plane. So this is Charlie Foxtrot, Juliet Papa Yankee, Cessna 180. Here's our pilot getting on board. Here's the instrument panel. And now we're taxiing out on the water. And up we go. So we're now in the air. And we're going to get an aerial tour looking down in this region. The east shore of Georgian Bay has literally hundreds and hundreds of islands. So we're going to be flying over them. So I'm sitting in the back seat. So here's the back of the head of our pilot and the headset she has on. Also like the shirt she's wearing. Here's a seaplane right back here. And so I'll be showing you a few photos here taken from the air. You know, because we're taking photos through the plane's windows, sometimes we get reflections, which messes up the photo a bit, but not too badly. See, here's an area in which we have a number of sailboats which are anchored. Little harbor down here, and I don't see any sailboats. These look like they're all power boats. I'm guessing the water's pretty shallow in this area. So we're still flying. I'm just looking at the instrument panel here. So what I can tell you is we're at an altitude of 1,700 feet above sea level. We're descending at the moment at a rate of 150 feet per minute. We're flying level and straight. We're flying at flying at 320 degrees, which is about northwest. Flying level, and our speed, airspeed, 80, 100, I think it's about 110 knots or so, about 120 miles an hour. See a few houses down here on this island. Sailing in this region, one has to be very careful to keep track of where you are. The GPS is not a problem, but without it, you can get easily lost among these islands. So here's a person who looks like he owns the entire island and has a house built there. So probably not troubled with many salesmen that come to his door trying to sell him something. Okay, now we're headed back to Perry Sound. We're banking, we're turning and getting ready to land. One final approach here, going to be landing the water down here. And we're down on. So later that evening, we can watch another sunset. And a bit later, we see that we have almost a full moon up here in the sky. Okay, so that was our trip up the Canadian shore and over to Perry Sound here, and then ultimately back again. So next, we're going to go up the U.S. Shore. We'll stop at a few marinas like Port Huron, Harbor Beach, Harrisville, one of our favorite marinas. And we're going to go north to Presque Isle, Rogers City. Going to go through the Straits of Mackinac and over to Beaver Island. So we're underway. Here we are at Port Huron. The mooring facilities are on the Black River here. So here we are tied up to a dock. Or flowers. Or flowers. And here's some good advice for young children. They should wear a life vest in the area. Okay, we've moved a little further north. Now we're at Harbor Beach. One interesting thing of Harbor Beach, downtown area, some of the buildings have rather large murals which are painted on the side. So here's one of them. Here's another mural. Another mural reminding us sailing can be dangerous. You don't want to be out in big storms. And it looks like Jim Johnston's with us again on this trip. And I think he's looking to see what this lion has had for breakfast. Further north, here we are at Harrisville. Right next to, or attached is a nice little viewing area, a little park, a picnic area. Harrisville, they have a courtesy cruiser. They will take you from the marina, drive you around locally, anywhere you'd like to go. We're going to go up the steps here and see what we find. More flowers. View out over the marina. So this building has the restrooms and showers. All the marinas have restrooms, showers, and at the dock, you get electrical power and running water. This one even has a dog run. And here we have a sheltered picnic area. View from the picnic area. Moving north, we're now at Presque Isle. And here we are. This is our, again, the name is Genesis for our boat. And off real close is a little lighthouse we're going to go visit. Interesting looking at the names that people are giving their boats. So this is kind of a rural area, not really in a city. kind of out in the country here. And I see we're on the Great Lakes Maritime Heritage Trail. And here's a statue. And this is a tribute to the Presque Isle Township Lighthouse Keepers. It's a little poem written by Don Olds. So here's that lighthouse. One of my hobbies is going to the tops of tall things. And there's a set of stairs that take us to the top. So up I go. Here's the view from the lighthouse. And by walking on the road here, about 2 miles to the north, there's a considerably bigger lighthouse, the 1870 lighthouse, where they got things like gift shops, picnic areas, and they invite us to climb our tower. Sounds good to me. So let's see, here's the lighthouse. This is considerably taller than the last one. This is 113 feet in height. And this tells you a little bit about the history of this. Built in 1870, 113 feet tall, and some further history. So they have a little lilac bush outside. And here's how you get to the top. There's no elevator. You just go round and round up the steps. Still at the top, we're 113 feet high. Look out over the water out here. So we're looking back towards the marina where our boat is, or in this vicinity here, a couple miles away. And zooming in with our camera further out of the lake, we can see a couple of lake freighters that are passing each other through the haze. And now we're sailing again. This is our mainsail, which is up. And here's something interesting. This is similar to a rainbow, but not caused by raindrops. It's caused by little tiny drops of water that make up fog. So this is a fog bowl. Doesn't have much color. It's mostly whitish in appearance, a fog bow. We saw a number of those when we were going up towards the North Pole. Okay, now we're at Rogers City. And here we are tied up at the dock. Flowers, more flowers. And out here they laid out the direction of the compass, north, south, east, and west. And then there's a little walkway here that takes you out to where you can inspect the entranceway coming into the harbor. And when you get there, these are the buoys that mark the entranceway. And what you have to remember is the 3R rule, red, right, returning. So if you're returning from the sea, going into a harbor, you keep red buoys on your right, and the green buoys are on your left. So Scott's admiring another sunset. Here's the sun, seen now through some clouds. I'm zooming in with the camera. This looks more like planet Jupiter. Doesn't look too much like the sun. That's the appearance as seen through the clouds. And on this trip, we're going to end up on this island. This is Beaver Island in Lake Michigan. This is the largest island in Lake Michigan, about 13 miles in length, anywhere from about 3 to 6 miles in width. We're going into St. James Township, which is right up here, rather protected area. This is a map of the island, and it shows that there not only are there harbor facilities up here, but there are also 2 airports. So we could easily fly in here. Let's see, this is one airport. This is a smaller airport. And where's our larger airport? Right here. Here is a larger airport. So this is a view from the north looking south. And looking down now, this is St. James Township. So we're going to be staying one of the marinas here, one of the docks. So here is one of them with some other sailboats. So here we are, Beaver Island Marina. This is where the dock master is. He's a person who will tell you where to park your boat. And here's our boat tied up at the dock. So we're going to go for a little walk along Main Street, about the only street in town. So let's see, they've got a hardware store, Beaver Island Community Center, where we are welcome. Beaver Island Realty, in case one would like to buy a house or a plot of land here. And you come without a boat or a place to stay, there's a hotel. This is the King Strang Hotel. For about 8 years, back in the mid-1800s, an offshoot of the Mormon religion, which was led by James Strang, gave himself the title of king, not king of the island, but king of that religious group. They set up their facilities here on this island for 8 years. King James Strang, and this is the hotel named after him. You probably recognize the Mackinac Bridge, which will take you from the lower to the upper peninsula. This is the longest suspension bridge in the Western Hemisphere, measured from the anchorages, this being one of them where these cables are anchored, and the other one's out of view. Longest suspension bridge measured between anchorages in the Western Hemisphere. Towers are 550 feet high. The road surface rises at 200 feet above the water, and the clearance under the bridge is about 155 feet. So plenty of room for us to get under it. And as most people are probably aware, 1 day per year, for a few hours, they close down the bridge to traffic. This is on Labor Day, and one can take a walk across the bridge. And I have done this just once, and it was quite a fun experience. So we're leaving Beaver Island. We're going to sail back under the bridge now. So here's the bridge, Mackinac Bridge. And you'll see a few pictures as we get closer and closer. I've just taken down the jib using only the mainsail. See a little bit of wind, a little bit of waves out here. And here's a lake freighter going our direction. Getting closer. Getting really close to the bridge, so we're going to go under it, and you'll get a view that you don't normally see of the bridge. So let's see, we're looking south. And here we go under the bridge. And out on the other side. And this is the closer tower to the north. Okay, so we end that trip. So let's go have a look at Niagara Falls over here between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. So we're going to start in Pontiac Airport. We're going to go and hike a fast airplane, and we're going to fly this way over to see the falls. So this is Niagara Falls. It consists actually of 3 falls. There's Horseshoe Falls, and there's the American Falls, and this little itty bitty Bridal Veil Falls here. Of course, they're all part of the Niagara River. And when you add the 3 falls together, you get higher flow of water than anywhere else any other waterfall in North America. So here's our plane, Cirrus 3 Sierra Delta. And here's our pilot, Heike. And up we go. So looking to the south, this is Lake Erie. And flying east, this is our view initially. It's a little hazy. But as we're getting close to the falls, this is the Welland Canal that we're going to cross. It's a safe way from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario. Now as we're getting close, you can see a little bit over here. These are the rapids above the falls. And this is the city of Niagara Falls, Ontario. A little better view. American Falls. Horseshoe Falls. Okay, a view that shows you American Falls, Bridal Veil, Horseshoe Falls, and the rapids, which are upstream of the waterfalls. These falls are 170 feet in height. And here we are. This is the airport, Niagara Falls, New York. And we're going to land here, which we have done. Heike's locking up her plane. And then we take a taxi a few miles down to the waterfalls. So you don't get a real good view of the waterfalls from the American side. You get a good view of the rapids, which are above the falls. So that's what we're going to be seeing here mostly. So we're looking at the rapids prior to Horseshoe Falls. And now as we approach falls, you can see the mist rising from the waterfall. Here we're getting pretty close to the edge. Look over the edge, and down here, I think is one of the Maid of the Mist boats. Wear a raincoat and get up in the mist. It's pretty wet. Okay, right at the edge, looking at the water going over. Looking downstream, Niagara River, this is the American Falls here. Rapids above the American Falls. And here the American Falls up close. Horseshoe Falls in the distance. Again, looking downstream. So this bridge will take you into Canada. We didn't go on this trip into Canada for a better view. We had one of my good friends, Dr. Centora, retired vascular surgeon from Phoenix, and he didn't have a passport with him, so we didn't go across. But looking across, this is Niagara Falls, Canada. Okay, changing gears. Now we're back in Lake Huron. In fact, we're up in the North Channel, one of our favorite areas for sailing. And so we are pulled into a kind of sheltered bay along with a few other boats. So we are anchored here for a couple of days. Very scenic area. Lots of rocks. And here's Scott. Scott's going down. We have a couple inflatable kayaks. We can use the little dinghies to get around when we're anchored. So we've inflated them. Scott's, here he is going off for a little paddle around the area. Maybe visit some of our neighbors. And sure enough, here he is talking to a couple neighbors. And then Scott's going to demonstrate his diving ability. Going to dive from the boat down into the water. Of course, my immediate worry is he's going to get hung up in the lifelines, maybe this stanchion here. But he doesn't seem to be worried. Here he goes. Hope he clears this area. And apparently he did, because he seems pretty happy. So here I'm checking out the zoom feature of my camera. So here's a seagull way over on this rock. So zooming in, the seagull looks like this. And with maximum zoom, it looks like that. Okay, another sunset. Next day, one of our neighbors out with her dinghy, rowing around. So this is an inn or hotel on Manitoulin Island. This is one of our favorite eating places. This is at the western end of Manitoulin Island. This is in Meldrum Bay. You're home away from home, and we've eaten here several times. Really good food. We've enjoyed all our meals here. Okay, we're going to go down into Lake Erie. So this is a nautical chart. So this is Point Pelee. This is the southernmost point in Canada. The Pelee Island. There are 3 islands there, the North, Middle, and South Bass Island. Little clearer display, Pelee Islands in Canada. The other islands are in the US. Kelly's Island has a nice marina, South Bass Island does. We're going down to Puddin Bay. And we're not going by boat this time, we're going to fly down. We're going down with Dave Riffle in the plane that we own jointly. So this is South Bass Island. It's about 4 miles in length, about 1.5 miles in width. The main town, Puddin Bay, is right here. They have Perry's Monument, quite tall, about 350 feet tall. I'll say a few words about that in a minute. And here's the airport that we're going to fly into. So this is a view looking down from the north. Perry's Monument, and here's the airport down here. View from the south, view of the airport. A little better view of the airport. So we're going to fly in and land at this airport. Much quicker to get down that way than sailing down. We can get down in 1 day by sailboat, but it's a long day, like, I don't know, 14, 16 hours, something like that. So this is a memorial. This is a memorial to Perry's victory. There was a great battle that took place, the Battle of Lake Erie, during the War of 1812. And Commodore Perry had a fleet of 9 US ships. He did battle with the British, who had 6 ships. So this is Commodore Oliver Perry, and the US was victorious. And to commemorate that victory, this memorial was built. So main part of town, everybody gets around pretty much by golf cart. Boardwalk has a number of restaurants one can eat at. And let's see, here we go. Here's distances to a number of places like Bulgaria, Chicago, Cleveland, just 52 nautical miles away. Mackinac Island, 330 nautical miles. Statue of Liberty, 676 nautical miles. So again, Perry's Victory and International Peace Memorial. A few different views. Getting up close, there's a door. This is 352 feet in height. One can go to the top, by elevator. You don't have to climb the stairs. This is the highest Doric column in the world. Doric column by its design. And this is the viewing area at the top. We have several people up here enjoying the view. This is what the view looks like, looking down to the south. And well, let's see. When we sail down, this is where the set of docks here is where we generally tie our boat up right in here. When we fly down, here's the airport over here. So on this particular day, we flew down. This is my partner, former partner, Dave Riffle. He and I owned the airplane together. Friend Paul, friend Al, and here I am at the Puddin Bay Airport. And it looks like it's a pretty windy day, just looking at the windsock here. Here's our plane that we flew down. And a picture of the four of us with the plane behind us. And this is a picture of the four of us up on the memorial looking south towards the airport. And that brings me to the end of this tour. This is the last slide I have to show. And so here we are, 352 feet above the ground. Most of us looking reasonably happy. Well, maybe I don't look unhappy. I'm trying to make up my mind, I guess. But let's just back up a little bit and we'll end up with, there's a good, yeah, this is a good picture. So here's that memorial and the view from the top we just saw. And that brings me to the end of my talk. So if there are questions, I would be happy to answer them.
All right. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. There's definitely a lot of jokes. One person asked, how high did you fly when you were in the B-17?
Well, we didn't fly very high. The B-17 can fly, has a ceiling of 35,000 feet. But we were up probably 1,500, 2,000 feet above the city or water. So not very high.
Back for questions. People like the sunsets.
Yeah, so do we.
I see a lot of other questions this time. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat.
I'll toss in one. Jerry, you mentioned that one ice cream place, but are there other highly recommended ice cream places along the Great Lakes?
Oh gosh, I'm sure there are. At the other end of Manitoulin Island, there's a town, little town, which has a very nice ice cream shop, which we've sampled more than once, 5 or 6, 8, 10 times. Yes, there are. Any small town with a marina generally will cater to sailors who normally don't have ice cream on their boats.
Have you been to the House of Flavors over in Ludington or Manistee? That's one of my favorites.
No, but you have to give me directions on exactly how to find it.
You can order a wooden pig trough, and they serve you ice cream in a little wooden trough, and you get
that sounds good. I like that.
Can we have an alumni event there, Steve?
Sure. Someone asked, is there still a winery on Puddin Bay on the island?
I believe there is, yes. I think so. Although we did not visit it, but I think there is. There certainly has been. We've been there several times, and there certainly has been in the past. Of course, I haven't been down there in more than a year with this pandemic, but I believe that the winery is still there.
What's your next flying or sailing plan, Jerry?
I'm going sailing in about a month, at least that is our current plan. And my partner Scott and I, and we're trying to find one or two other persons who might come along, but at least the two of us will take our good ship Genesis north. And if Canada opens up the border so we can go to Canada, we'll probably go up in the North Channel again. If Canada does not do that by the time we leave, which will be around the end of July, we're thinking of going back to Beaver Island in Lake Michigan. And after that, maybe up into Lake Superior. But our plans are not that formulated right now, since there's quite a bit of uncertainty about Canada and when it might open the border.
Is one of the Great Lakes your favorite?
Well, I haven't done much sailing in Lake Superior, but it's a considerable interest to me because I want to fly up to sail up to Isle Royale, which is in the lake. I'd like to fly to the extreme western end of that lake, which would take me to Duluth, Minnesota, where my mother used to live at one time. So I've been to Duluth by car, but never by boat. If we make it to Duluth, I then will have sailed the full east-west extent of the Great Lakes, from Duluth all the way to the eastern end of Lake Ontario. So that I'd like to do. So that's of considerable interest to me. The lake we know best is Lake Huron because it's not that far away and lots of interesting areas, especially the further north one sails, both on the Canadian side and the US side.
Somebody asked, the rocky cliffs in the Georgian Bay are beautiful. Do you know what kind of rocks they are?
Sedimentary rocks. Can't tell you more than that. Probably limestone, I'm guessing. I'm not a geologist, but you can certainly see the layers. So they're clearly have been put down layer by layer. So they're sedimentary rocks. I'm not sure how many different kinds of sedimentary rocks there are, but limestone comes to mind. So that's my best guess.
Megan says she believes they're called the Niagara Escarpment.
Yes,
If no one has any other questions, I do have a poll I can put up here of where we'll go next with Jerry on our journeys with Jerry. So there's two great options here that he can sort of explain. So the options are, we see historic US telescopes or really big machines.
Okay, well, I can make a little bit of a couple comments. One of my hobbies has been traveling around the US looking at some of the historic telescopes throughout the US. Quite a few down in the Southwest, like the Mount Palomar telescopes. Arizona has a lot of telescopes. We've been to Puerto Rico where we had a radial telescope, Arecibo. Unfortunately, that fell down a few months ago. But we were there before it fell down, got some nice pictures of that. And a number of other telescopes out in California. And well, scattered around various places throughout the country. Out to Hawaii, saw some telescopes there. The second choice, two really big machines. There is LIGO, which is the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. This is a device which can measure gravitational waves, which is a stretching of space and time. Very exotic waves, which are very hard to detect, but have now been detected using very advanced technology. We went down to one in Louisiana. There are in fact two in this country, one there and one in Washington State. And so we would take a look at LIGO, Louisiana, have a tour there. And the other really big machine is the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. So both these machines are machines which are miles in size, the biggest machines on Earth. The Large Hadron Collider accelerates atomic particles like protons to really high energies, generates two beams traveling in opposite directions, and allows them to collide with each other and then study the fragments. And hopefully in the process, discover new types of particles and their characteristics. So those are their two choices, telescopes or these two really big machines. I mentioned that the LHC is in the vicinity of Geneva, Switzerland.
So one person hasn't voted. All right, everyone's voted. So the winner was the historic U.S. telescopes by just a few, 9-5.
Okay, well that sounds good. Yes. Next time, I guess that's going to be not in August. Or is that right? I don't know. When is next time going to be?
Yeah, we'll figure it out because I know you're going to be traveling for a while. So it may be in maybe September, maybe. We will definitely figure it out.
Yeah, well, if we go in August, we should be back by the middle or the 20th of August, probably.
I know I'll be out the last week of August, probably. So September might be better. But we'll definitely send out some promotion
Okay, very good.
about it and figure it out. So thank you again, Jerry. It was great. Congrats on 8 Journeys with Jerry's. This one was really neat. I love seeing the elevation, the sea level, and the deepness of each of the lakes was really interesting. And the photos, as always.
Okay, thank you, Steve, and everybody else for joining us